And welcome into the Rowdy Studios on a very wonderful Bob Pockrass Tuesday. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? What's wrong? You got an itch there, Bob?
You need to wear your...
just his, the fanfare music was a little loud.
You need to have your ear
morning.
protection, man.
You know, after Bristol, where it's so loud and everything, your ears are kind of sensitive, right?
Well, speaking of sensitive, Mr. Sensitive, Tony Stewart. Now, on a scale from 1 to pissed, how angry is Tony right now? I mean, this was not a good weekend, and it's not been a good month.
It was embarrassing, is what it was.
Well, okay, Mr. If he not so sensitive, opposite pissed, I would say. You know, he doesn't like to run bad, and he ran horrible. Couldn't get it figured out. Good thing for him, only one short track left this year.
Right.
Well, you know,
Richmond and Martinsville. That's 2, Bob.
Okay, 2.
One more before the chase.
I just corrected Bob Pockrass.
Yeah.
Ooh, you know, they fired Bobby Hutchins, didn't have a noticeable or lasting effect. You got to think, I mean, I got to think Darian Grubb is feeling the heat right now, isn't he?
I would think so. I mean, he's
so.
feeling the heat just because they're not running well.
Right.
And the question is, I mean, I think Darian Grubb knows he'll have a position somewhere in this sport. I don't think but he's hired to get Tony Stewart to run well, and he's not doing that right now. Big question with Danica Patrick coming in next year for at least a handful of races. Tony would love to have that car full time, so they're going to need to have another crew chief in house, right?
Right.
And then the question will be if they have a full-time team, then you could definitely hire a crew chief that you know will keep going with Danica years and years to come. If they only have a part-time team, do they hire kind of a full-time crew chief, even though it's just for a part-time year? And then where does Darian Grubb fit into all this?
Well, I think the concerning thing would be, obviously, you've got Ryan Newman running well. The Hendrick cars, especially Jeff and Jimmy, seem to be rounding into shapes, and there's some sharing of information there. So with the crew chief, is there a communication issue where Tony just can't get the feel he wants? Because it seems like the equipment should be good enough. Do you see what I'm asking you?
I see what you're asking you, and it's hard because he's top 10 in points. Right. So
I think he'll still make the chase.
And so you're like, well, if you're top 10 in points, you know, do you need to make a change? And you would say from the last 6 weeks or so, the way he's run, maybe so. But, you know, Tony Stewart, you know, he lasted very long with Greg Zipadelli. They had their ups and their downs.
Yeah.
So I think he'll have to get to really a point of no return with Darian Grubb before he says this isn't going to work.
You know, top 10 in points for Tony Stewart is different than a top 10 in points for, you know, a Brad Keselowski. There are different expectations with a Tony Stewart. So I'm not sure the top 10 in points is enough of a
Well, it's not going to satisfy him, but what I hear you saying is he's still going to take the long view.
Well, and I think it shows potential, doesn't it? I mean, if you're top 10 in points.
Yeah, but I think it's troubling to contrast him with his teammate. That's what I think is the most troubling.
Agree.
Yeah, I just think, you know, obviously, you know, they race very differently. Their styles of when and where they get on the gas and off the gas is different, or at least it appears to be. And with this, you know, we've heard other guys talk about with this tire that you need to be, you know, that there's certain styles that it favors, and right now it's favoring Newman's style.
Is it favoring more of a drive it in deeper style or a get out earlier style?
I want to say it's a more drive it in deeper style.
Okay, well, there you go. From Bob Pockrass of Scene Daily, the guy Brad Keselowski called, what did he call you, the hardest working man?
I don't know. He
guy
came
in
into the media center after the press
conference. That was
conference.
like the first 2 words out of his mouth.
He just kept yelling
Bob
Pockrass over and over again, like it was some sort of Tourette's
How
moment.
many Miller Lights had he had before then?
Well, you know,
I heard 2.
That happens to me all the time too. I get a little loopy and I start saying Bob Pockrass.
Yeah, well, and Miller Lite goes straight to your head too. I know.
Yeah, after 12.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.